this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech doing a top 10 list, in fact 2 top 10 lists today on blue commander cards. This is a follow-up that several people have requested that I revisit some of my older commander lists that are a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years old, and update them with new cards and better production. I've got some help from Mox Boarding House. I'm doing a series of articles over there where you can find links to all of these cards and you can purchase them through Card Kingdom. Mox Boarding House is the content side of Card Kingdom. Card Kingdom has been around for over 10 years, and I've been buying and selling cards with them for that entire time period. In fact, when I went to law school, I sold out a good portion of my collection. That's a story for another time. I have since then purchased a lot of cards through them and always gotten great service overall. I'm happy to be writing for them on their blog. Let's jump in here. You get 2 lists this time. One is a no holds barred, what are the best of the best blue cards that really fit into the criteria I'm putting forward, and then you get a bonus list on what are the 10 budget cards that are really overlooked right now in Commander. Missing in action from this list are a type of card, which is the Time Walk cards. That made my original list. Yes, it's super powerful, but it's not fun to play against. The number of times I've played Commander in the last few years where someone starts to take a large number of turns and the rest of the table zones out for a nap is extremely high. I no longer appreciate these cards in Commander. Yes, they're very powerful. They make other people's lists. They just not hitting my list here. The other one that I've decided not to put on this list is Deadeye Navigator. Deadeye Navigator is not extremely broken, but it's broken in the same way that Sylvan Primordial is. I don't know what it is about the rules committee with regards to Commander. They hate green cards. They hate green cards with a visceral passion. We've got Primetime and Sylvan Primordial on the list, but Deadeye Navigator and Iona, 2 of the most ridiculously out there broken cards for at least fun and play interaction, are still legal. So if we see a Banhammer anytime soon, I would not mind seeing Deadeye Navigator added to that list. Play him in other formats, just not in Commander. Honorable mentions here, I pulled off the 1 casting cost cantrips from the list. They're super powerful. They should be included in any blue EDH deck. They're the type of thing that smooths out your deck, but I've decided to put cards on this list that have more impact than just looking at your next few cards and getting to the great spells you want to cast. I also didn't put any Planeswalkers on this list. I'm going to be doing a Planeswalker specific list at a later point in time. Planeswalkers are great dueling. They bring you a lot of hate multiplayer, so unless you really build around them, they can be a little bit rough. There are some great blue Planeswalkers, don't get me wrong. They're just going to make it onto another. The number 10 spot here, I've got a new card, Dig Through Time. For 2 casting costs, being able to grab 2 of your top 7 cards is really, really powerful. Yes, it just got banned in Modern. Now's a reasonable time to pick it up. It's a great card overall, much better than just looking at your top 3 cards and grabbing 1. Dig Through Time can get you to the answers you need, and blue is a color about finding answers and controlling the game. This is a very blue feeling card. In the number 9 spot here, I've got Capsize. This really brings back a lot of warm memories of playing Boomerang and locking people out in a table. Yes, it's not the most fun win condition out there. Super powerful, super good ability on it with buyback. The number 8 spot here, I've got Consecrated Sphinx. This is the type of card that lets you draw huge numbers of cards. If this guy sticks around for a few turns, you can control the entire board. No, you're not going to make friends with this card, but it's a super powerful card in blue for EDH. The price has doubled in the last 2 years, and that is entirely based off of its appeal in Commander. This is a casual staple. Lenendra Archmage is another great card. The ability to counter 2 spells is wonderful. Persist is very, very nice. One bonus tip here is that if you can give it +1/+1 counters, those actually counteract the -1/-1 counters, so they both go away, and you can continue to use her again and again. She's at a very low price. She was in Modern Masters 1. This is a casual favorite. I strongly recommend picking her up. In the number 6 spot here, I've got one that warms my heart from playing old school Control. This card is only legal in Vintage and in EDH. And in Vintage, it barely makes a splash because the casting costs are so low. But in EDH, you can mana drain very early some ridiculously large spells because other people are ramping, and then put it back into a Wormcoil Engine or a Karin, or pay for all the colorless on 2 planeswalkers your next turn. This card will probably never see a reprint. It is super powerful and a wonderful addition in EDH. The price tag is a little bit insane, not likely to ever go down though. It's an investment as a long-term piece of nostalgia. The number 5 spot here, I've got Snapcaster Mage, who's been jumping up in price a lot recently because of its popularity in Modern and in Legacy. This card is also super powerful in EDH. Being able to replay all of the other instants and sorceries that I talk about in this list is incredible. Flash is really nice because it helps you hit those counter spells, those instants, and often I've even just flashed him in at the end of somebody's turn so that I have something to put a sword on, to attack the next turn, or to stop a lethal attack. Great card. The number 4 spot here, I've got Cryptic Command, just reprinted. The price has dropped on it significantly, and it's dropping a little bit more this month. Now is the time to pick it up. I often use this card as a fog in EDH, locking down your opponent's creatures as they move into their attack phase, and then swinging for lethal with your creatures is a wonderful way to use this card, and you're even going to get to draw a card off of it. I've even snapped this card back several times. Great card. Used to be number 1, but we've got a few cards that have moved above it on the list since I first did the list. Control Magic is super powerful. One of those abilities that you have in alpha, beta, goes all the way back to the beginning of the game. It's a very blue feeling ability to take somebody else's creature that's on the board and use it as your own. Treachery is the best control magic for EDH because you get to untap 5 lands as you use the ability, as it comes into play. So you have a counter spell up to defend it. If you have lands that produce more than 1 mana, you can even net mana with Treachery. Great spell. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Urza's Destiny was the last set to be included in the reserve list. So Urza's Destiny has this small group of rares that will never be reprinted again. And yes, Treachery is on that list. A $12 card that will never be reprinted again, that has huge casual appeal, could double or triple in price over the next few years as people look for stable cards to pick up, to add to their cubes, or to add to their EDH decks. The supply of this will just dwindle. We've seen how Metalworker has shot up recently. This is a super playable card that I would definitely recommend picking up now. Cyclonic Rift has made it to number 2. A few people I know have even advocated to have it banned. Yes, MaggieBot, I'm talking about you. This is a board wipe. It looks like a very innocent card at the 2 casting cost level. Return a single non-land permanent. But the overload cost of 7 gets played more in EDH than you would think. You can use this at the end of somebody's turn, so they have to discard a bunch of cards, putting too many things back in their hand. This is a way to clear out an overly stagnant board state. Super powerful card. One-sided, instant speed board wipe that hits everybody else at the table. Great card. Strongly recommended. It's only $1 because it's been reprinted in the Commander set. The number 1 spot here, I've got Phyrexian Metamorph. This is a super flexible clone that you can cast early at 3 casting cost. You can copy your opponent's swords, their artifacts. This has saved me so many games. One of my favorite tricks here is to Phyrexian Metamorph a Batterskull, and then use the Batterskull's ability to return it to my hand later and copy something else so something better comes into play. Great card, very reasonably priced right now. Long term, this is a casual favorite. Now we're moving into some underplayed hidden gems, cards that have a lot of power, but people really haven't picked up on them yet. Stolen Identity, I'm going out on a limb here. The more I play this card, the more I like the card. It can be very dangerous. You may not have a creature that can get through to put the Cipher ability on. So it's not for every deck. But if you've got a deck that has Unblockable or has Trample in it, strongly consider giving this a try. Getting a copy every turn as you get through of target artifact or creature is extremely powerful. Trinket Mage is another wonderful one. Blue's ability to search for artifacts is very powerful, and Trinket Mage at only $1 allows you to go get some of those wonderful artifacts like Sensei's Divining Top or Exploration Map that help you get what you need out of your deck. Very nice 2-for-1 card, and include in any deck with a top. Reoccurring Insight is a wonderful counter spell. Reoccurring Insight is a wonderful card draw spell. In EDH, people often have lots of cards in hand, and this allows you to duplicate that yourself twice. Rebound is almost as good as Buyback. Getting to cast a spell twice is incredible. This is a slower card. I would leave this out of super competitive decks. This is definitely on the casual side. But for a casual, fun kitchen table deck, it's an incredible amount of card draw. Number 7 spot here, I've got one of the most competitive cards in this list. Mystic Remora is super powerful. I've often drawn 3, 4, 5 cards for 1 blue and a cumulative upkeep of maybe 1 or 2 over time. Nobody pays the 4 mana to counter the effect. People hate this card because it says cumulative upkeep, and cumulative upkeep sounds like the opposite of fun. This card is playable in Vintage. This card is super strong. Give it a try. Swallow that hatred of cumulative upkeep, and you will be rewarded with card after card after card. Or the whole table just shuts down and stops casting spells, which is great for you because you get to put out more islands and wait to control the table. The number 6 spot here, I've got Overwhelming Intellect, another powerhouse counterspell that is overlooked. It's a little bit high on the casting cost, it's 6, but you can often draw 4, 5, 6 cards off of this, and it's never dead. Everybody's got a commander. You can counter their commander and draw cards off of it. Number 5 spot here is Swan Song, a counterspell nobody ever sees coming. 1 blue casting cost. People just assume that you don't have a counterspell if you've only got 1 island untapped. I've seen this card save a lot of people's games and stop combos mid-combo. Great spell overall. In rare instances, you can even give yourself a blue 2/2 flyer when you need something to attach your swords to or to get through the last few pieces of damage, last few points of damage. The number 4 spot here, I've got Fact or Fiction, which is a wonderful card. I'm surprised I don't see it in more blue EDH decks. It's a skill-intensive draw card that is just fun to play. If you're going for the battle cruiser, slower magic, consider Sphinx of Ulthun. It has Fact or Fiction stapled onto a 5/6 flying body. Number 3 spot here, I've got Mole Drifter. Super powerful card if you have a recursion or blink theme in your deck. Draw 2 again and again and again and get that 2/2 flyer out there. Really nice card. In the number 2 spot here, I've got my new favorite clone. It is up there with Phyrexian Metamorph for my personal popularity at this point, but most people haven't given Clever Impersonator a try. Clever Impersonator has the advantage of being able to copy Planeswalkers, and when your opponent drops a great Planeswalker, it is often better to be the second Planeswalker on the board. They drop a Karin, they try to tick him up, you drop a Karin, exile their Karin. The ability to copy planeswalkers is just lots of fun. I also recommend checking this one out, particularly in foil. The foil looks very, very nice. The number one spot here, I've got Treasure Cruise. This is the ultimate power in blue, is to draw extra cards. Don't look at the 7 on here. The 7 doesn't exist. In EDH, you almost always have 7 cards in your graveyard. It becomes Ancestral Recall for $3,000 less. The number one card on here that I see people miss in blue commander decks is Treasure Cruise. Yes, it's banned in lots of formats, but it is not banned in Commander. It is not 8 casting costs, but 1 casting cost, because you've always got a full graveyard in Commander. It's Ancestral Recall for $2,000 less. The ability to draw cards is so blue, this card should be a staple in any EDH deck. Very, very powerful effect. Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. Thank you to Mox Boarding House for making this happen. And thank you to all the patrons that are out there on Patreon. Definitely enjoyed producing content for you guys over these last few years. We're stepping it up with a lot of cool things coming this month. We're working on the Burn Basic strategy, and I've got a Tarmogoyf rant tomorrow.